Hey guys, it's Miss Tatum, and so today you are going to be completing Module 1, Lesson 10, Self-Paced, as I'm not here today. So please make sure and do all of the checks for understanding within the video, and I hope you enjoyed this part of the crossover. So today we'll continue reading about Josh's changing relationships with his brother and his dad in our text, the crossover. And so, based off of what we read yesterday, I have questions. Will Josh and JB ever be as close as they once were? Is Josh's dad going to be okay? This lesson and the next several lessons will help us answer our questions. How does basketball shape and change what Josh believes? Okay, and so please make sure you have a notebook and pencil so you can take important notes as we read today's text. So, in this part of the text, Josh and JB face a difficult situation. And I want to know, how do you handle difficulty in your life? You are going to use an open-ended question to answer this. So please pause and make sure you do this activity. Once you are done, you can continue with the video. So, now that you've completed your journal entry, let's see how Josh faces a really difficult situation at the end of the fourth quarter. So, again, I have marked a couple of places for us to cement our understanding of the text. So please remember to stop and do the check for understandings as we read. This is how I know that you have watched the entire video. So we're going to jump into our first section of text. We are going to be reading pages 199 to pages 206 of the crossover, and your job is to use bullets to jot 2 to 3 important events. Let's go ahead and read. The doctor pats Jordan, me, on the back and says, "Your dad should be fine. If you're lucky, you boys will be fishing with him in no time." "We don't fish," I tell him. Mom shoots me a mean look. "Mrs. Bell, the mitochondrial infraction has caused some complications. Your husband's stable, but he is in a coma." In between sobs, JB barely gets his question out. "Will my dad be home for Christmas?" He looks at us and says, "Try talking to him. Maybe he can hear you," which could help him come back. "Well, maybe we're not in the talking mood," I say. "Joshua Bell, be respectful," Mom tells me. I shouldn't even be here. I should be putting on my uniform, stretching, getting ready to play in the county semifinals. But instead, I'm sitting in a smelly room in St. Luke's Hospital, listening to Mom sing Kumbaya, watching Jordan hold Dad's hand, wondering why I have to push water uphill with a rake to talk to someone who isn't listening, to miss the biggest game of my life. Mitochondrial infraction occurs when blood flow to an area of the heart is blocked a long enough time that part of the heart muscle is damaged or dies. As in, JB says that he hates basketball because it was the one thing that Dad loved the most besides us, and it was the one thing that caused his mitochondrial infraction. As in, the doctor sees me Googling the symptoms, coughing, sweating, vomiting, nosebleeds, and he says, we can't be sure what causes a mitochondrial infraction. I say, what about donuts and fried chicken and genetics? The doctor looks at my mom, then leaves. As in, Dad's in a coma because of a mitochondrial infraction, which is the same thing my grandfather died of. So what does this mean for me and JB? "Okay, Dad, the doctor says I can talk to you, that maybe you can hear me, and maybe you can't. Mom and JB have been talking to your ear off all morning. So if you're listening, I'd like to know, when did you decide to jump ship? I thought you were the man. And one more thing, if we make it to the finals, I will not miss the big game for a small maybe." "Mom, since you asked, I'll tell you why I'm so angry. Because Dad tried to dunk. Because I want to win a championship. Because I can't win a championship if I'm sitting in this smelly hospital. Because Dad told you he'd be here forever. Because I thought forever was like Mars, far away. Because it turns out forever is like the mall right around the corner. Because Jordan doesn't talk basketball anymore. Because Jordan cut my hair and didn't care. Because he's always drinking sweet tea. Because sometimes I get thirsty. Because I don't have anyone to talk to now. Because I feel empty with no hair. Because CPR doesn't work. Because my crossover should be better. Because if it was better, then Dad wouldn't have the ball. Because if Dad hadn't had the ball, then I wouldn't have tried to dunk. Because if Dad hadn't tried to dunk, then we wouldn't be here. Because I don't want to be here. Because the only thing that matters is swish. Because our background is splintered. Text messages from Bondi. Filthy, the game went double overtime before the last possession. Coach called a timeout and had us all do a special chant on the sideline. It was kind of creepy and the other team was LOL. I guess it worked because we won 40-39. We decided the game. Ball to your pop. Is he better? You and JB coming to practice? Filthy, you there? On Christmas Eve, Dad finally wakes up. He smiles at Mom, high-fives Jordan, then looks right at me and says, Filthy, I didn't jump ship. So right now what you are going to do is you are going to pause and you are going to use the open-ended question to jot down 2 to 3 important events from what we just read. After you are done completing the activity, you can go ahead and move on and check your answers. So now that you have done your activity, I just want to stamp 3 things. 1, Dad's in a coma after a mitochondrial infraction. Josh feels very angry about everything that's going on in his life. And happy news, Dad wakes up. Let's continue to read. But before we do, I hope you noticed that in OK Dad, Josh asks, when did you decide to jump ship? Then on Christmas Eve, when Dad wakes up, he says, Filthy, I didn't jump ship. What does this tell us about whether Dad could maybe hear Josh talking to him while he was in a coma? I just wanted you to think about that. So we are going to read our next chunk, which is pages 207 to 213. And again, you are going to jot down 2 to 3 important things we learned about how Josh is feeling. Santa Claus stops by. We are celebrating Christmas in Dad's hospital room. Flowers and gifts and cheers surround him. Relatives from 5 states. Aunts with collard greens and yams. Cousin with hoots and hollers and runny noses. Mom's singing. Dad's playing spades with his brothers. I know the nurse can't wait for visiting hours to end. I can't either. Uncle Bob's turkey tastes like cardboard, and his lemon pound cake looks like Jell-O. But Hospital Santa has everyone singing, and all this joy is spoiling my mood. I can't remember the last time I smiled. Happy is a huge river right now, and I've forgotten how to swim. After 2 hours, Mom tells everyone it's time for Dad to get some rest. I hug 14 people, which is like drowning. When they leave, Dad calls Jordan and me over to the bed. Do y'all remember when we were 7 and JB wanted to swing, but all the swings were filled and Filthy pushed the little redhead kid out of the swing so JB could take it? Well, it wasn't the right behavior, but the intention was righteous. You were there for each other. I want you both to always be there for each other. Jordan starts crying. Mom holds him and takes him outside for a walk. Me and Dad stare at each other for 10 minutes without saying a word. I tell him I don't have anything to say. Filthy, silence doesn't mean we have run out of things to say, only that we are trying not to say them. So let's do this. I'll ask you a question, and then you ask me a question, and we'll just keep asking until we can both get some answers, okay? Sure, I say, but you go first. Questions. Have you been practicing your free throws? Why didn't you go to the doctor when Mom asked you? When is the game? Why didn't you ever take us fishing? Does your brother still have a girlfriend? Are you going to die? Do you really want to know? Why couldn't I save you? Don't you see that you did? Do you remember I kept pumping and breathing? Aren't I alive? Did y'all arrest Uncle Bob's turkey? It was just criminal what he did to that bird, wasn't it? You think this is funny? How's your brother? Is our family falling apart? You still think I should write a book? What does that have to do with anything? What if I call it basketball rules? Are you going to die? Do you know I love you, son? Don't you know the big game's tomorrow? Is it true Mom is letting you play? You think I shouldn't play? What do you think, Filthy? What about Jordan? Does he want to play? Don't you know he won't as long as you're in here? Don't you know I know that? So why don't you come home? Can't you see I can't? Why not? Don't you know it's complicated, Filthy? Why can't you all call me by my real name? Josh, do you know what a heart attack is? Don't you remember I was there? Don't you see I need to be here so they can fix the damage that's been done to my heart? Who's going to fix the damage that has been done to mine? Just quickly before we read the next poem, I want to share with you that Tanka is a Japanese poem consisting of 5 lines, the first and third of which have 5 syllables, and the other 7 making 31 syllables, and all giving a complete picture of an event or mood. And remember, we are paying close attention to Josh's mood. So let's go ahead and read Tanka, knowing that it is a Japanese style poem. Tanka for language art class. The Christmas was not merry, and I have not found joy in the new year, with Dad in the hospital for 19 days and counting. I will never get used to walking home from school alone, playing Madden alone, listening to Lil Wayne alone, going to the library alone, shooting free throws alone, watching ESPN alone, eating donuts alone, saying my prayers alone, now that Jordan's in love and Dad's living in a hospital. So you are going to now pause and jot down 2 to 3 important things that we've learned about how Josh is feeling. And once you've done the activity, you can continue on and check your answers. So I just want to stamp 3 things. 1, that Josh feels miserable as the Bell family celebrates Christmas in Dad's hospital room. 2, Josh and Dad ask each other questions to try to help Josh work through his anger. And 3, Josh still feels very alone but is ready to face his fears. Okay, I just wanted to stamp those 3 things before we continue on to our last chunk. So we are going to read pages 214 to 222. Your job is to jot down 2 important events related to Josh and basketball and about Dad. Let's read. Page 214, basketball rule number 9. When the game is on the line, don't fear, grab the ball, take it to the hoop. As we're about to leave for the final game, the phone rings. Mom shrieks, I think the worst. I asked JB if he heard that he's on the bunk listening to his iPod. Mom rushes past our room out of breath. JB jumps down from his bunk. What's wrong, Mom? I ask. She says Dad had another attack. Don't worry. I'm going to the hospital. See you 2 at the game. Vroom. Her car starts. JB, what should we do? I ask. He's no longer listening to music, but his tears are loud enough to dance to. He laces his sneakers, runs out of our room. The garage door opens. I hear flop, flop, flop from the straws of the spokes of his bicycle wheels as he follows Mom to the hospital. I hear the clock tick-tock, tick-tock. I hear Dad, you should play in the game, son. A horn blows. I hear slam, slam, slam. As I shut the door of Vondi's dad's car, I hear screech, screech, screech as we pull away for the curb on our way to the county championship game. During warm-ups, I miss 4 layups in a row, and Coach Hawkins says, Josh, are you sure you're able to play? It's more than okay if you need to go to the hospital with your fam. Coach, my dad is going to be fine, I say. Plus, he wants me to play. Son, you telling me you okay? Can a deaf person write music? I ask Coach. He raises his eyebrows, shakes his head, and tells me to go sit on the bench. I excuse myself to the locker room and check my cell phone, and there are texts from my mom. Text messages from Mom part 2. Dad's having complications, but he's going to be fine and says he loves you. Good luck tonight. Dad's going to be fine. Jordan says he still doesn't feel like playing, but I made him go to the game to show support. Look for him and don't get lazy on your crossover. For Dad. My first throw flirts with the rim and loops, twirls for a million years, then drops, and for once we're up 49 to 48. 5 dancers on stage leaping, jumping, so high, so fly, 11 seconds from sky. A hard drive, a fast break. Their best player slices the thick air toward the goal. His pull-up jumper floats through the